Welcome to the TomorrowZone Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Reuben. As we close out 2025, it's the perfect moment to pause, zoom out, and reflect on the year. What did 2025 reveal? What shifted beneath the surface? And how can we carry forward the clarity that we gained into the uncertainties of a brand new year? In this episode, Jennica and I are going to look back, not just to celebrate progress, but to make sense of it. We regularly practice the power of active reflection at TomorrowZone. It helps us to learn forward and to make sense of emerging signals that we're noticing and tracking. And it sparks new questions for what matters most as we're moving into 2026. So let's make some space to notice what has shifted, imagine a bit what's possible now, and what's next. Joining me for the conversation, you may know and love her as much as I do, Jennica Burgh, Director of Operations for TomorrowZone. She's going to lead us through a set of reflective questions. Some of these may resonate for you, and I encourage you to steal these questions, adopt them for your own year-end reflection. It just might reveal something that you need as you're going into the next year. So, Jennica, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this conversation. I'm super excited to do this. So, Deb, if you had to give 2025 a theme or a title, what would it be and why?
I did give some thought to this question. I thought this was such a great question. And as I was looking into it, there were two things that came to mind, actually. So I'm like, can I get it all into one word? And I really couldn't. And so I gave some thought to just kind of the theme for this year internally. And I would say that 2025 for us was a slingshot year. We really pulled back and created some tension as we were looking into investing in clarity, alignment, and capability to really launch forward in 2026, writing the book, refining our IP, strengthening our operating rhythms. It really pulled us back just enough to gain some leverage as we're going into 2026. When I was thinking about our experience with clients, so many great memories from this year. We worked with some really amazing teams, teams that were so phenomenal. It was like, I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning and work with these people. And so with clients, really, the word that came to mind is 2025 was a catalytic year. Our work really sparked momentum and forward-thinking insights and fresh ideas that continued even after we stepped away. And so I guess if I was going to sum it up, I would say internally 2025 was our slingshot year. And with our clients, it was a catalytic year.
It's funny because I was thinking about this and the word that I thought of was also catalyst, that I thought this was really a catalyst year for TomorrowZone internally and with our clients. And, one of the reasons for that is we worked with more clients than ever in 2025. We launched 2 new offers. We dialed in our signature offer, which is the Catalyst Sprint. So, Deb, as we were doing all of this work throughout 2025, what consistent challenges or questions did you notice that leaders were bringing to the table?
I think one of the biggest ones that came up over and over again, and it came up for us as well. I don't think that we're alone in this, but I see it with every team that we work with. And I think it's just the reality of the world that we're living in today. How do we slow down just enough to see the whole system without losing momentum? Too often we're like rushing to solutions before we actually see the system. And systems thinking with foresight is so important to really navigating the tricky territory that's ahead with so many technology changes, so many forces of change coming from all sides. And so some of the questions that keep coming up, how do we align people quickly so execution actually sticks? How do we use technology and AI as an amplifier without losing the human at the center? We actually did a whole series in our podcast exploring the ins and outs of AI adoption from a variety of viewpoints, from inside equipment finance, but also from outside of the industry. And I think that, if you have these questions, you're not alone. From what I'm seeing, especially in the innovation communities that I'm a part of, outside of the equipment finance industry, these are questions that leaders from every walk of life are grappling with right now. What's the right pace, and how do we slow down just enough so we can see the whole system without losing momentum? I think that's the big fear. And it's so important that we do every once in a while step back, get aligned with the big picture again before we rush ahead. I actually, I wanted to ask you because you were involved in a lot of the work that we did with clients this year. And so I was just curious, just from your perspective, because it's very different from mine, what theme stands out to you in all of the different client work that we did this year?
I was thinking about this, and I think the biggest thing that is something that we did internally and then brought to work with our clients was the idea of making the implicit explicit. And I just want to give a quick illustration of what I mean by that, and kind of what brought that on is we were working with a technology company who had brought us in to work with their delivery team, asking us, just wanting help to make a better client and customer experience. And so we were working with them, but part of what we were doing in that work is modeling how to do that, because that's a big part of what we do at TomorrowZone is we want to bring an awesome customer experience with our clients. And there was a point at which we just kind of stopped and went, do they recognize that we're modeling what we're doing and that everything we're doing with them, they can do with their clients? And so instead of assuming that they did that, we, in one of the times that we were meeting with them, actually said, hey, you're working with your customers, and everything, if there's anything we're doing with you that has resonated, that you feel like has made a shift, that has made an impact, use it, take it, do it with your customers. And you could see this light bulb like, oh, we can do what you do. And so it, like, had we not done that, it would have been such a miss on our part. And seeing that, I know that internally we have made that shift with our clients. We've made that shift because we are all about alignment at TomorrowZone. And if you're assuming people know what you're doing or why you're doing what you're doing, there's no alignment. And so taking a pause, not assuming, and actually just stating the obvious, because just because it's obvious to you doesn't mean it's obvious to everybody else. And, I know, Deb, you said all the time, it's hard to see the box you're in. It's like asking a fish how to describe water. And so, but sometimes just really taking that pause and going, okay, does everybody else see this? And just saying it out loud is so vital. And so to me, I think that's probably one of the biggest themes that we really adopted, just like I said, internally and with our clients, that has made a huge impact.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because we can move so fast that often we assume people are running right alongside of us. And you can get so far down the road, you realize, oh my gosh, we've left everyone behind.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really good way to bring people along, making implicit, explicit, but also challenging assumptions. And
Yes.
so I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Good. Thank you. All right. Can we talk about your book now? Because I'm super excited about it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm deep in the weeds on the book right now.
So your book, just everybody, this book is coming out in early 2026. It's going to be amazing. So look for it. And Deb, as you were writing Enter the Tomorrow Zone, what did it reveal to you about your work, your clients, and even yourself?
So I'm going to say the obvious, a lot. I think like the biggest thing that stands out to me and I knew this, but it was really crystallized as I was writing and reflecting on so many varied experiences over decades of doing innovation work. The real leverage comes from mindset before method. And I noticed as I was looking at a lot of the transformational project experiences that I've observed, led, been a part of in any way, even in the work I did at an industry level. I used to run the ELFA Innovation Awards program back in the day. So I've reviewed a lot of projects from a lot of different angles. And when it comes to projects that break down and start to go off the rails, I think the most common thing that I found in all of that research was that The breakdowns happen when teams are skipping the work that it takes to develop shared understanding, and they jump to solutions before getting shared understanding of what is the problem that we want to solve and why do we believe that it's valuable to solve that problem, and what does success mean to each of us from our different lenses. It seems like a small thing, but it's not. It's actually a really big thing. And whenever I have seen teams that haven't done that work, they go off the rails pretty quick. I've done numerous project retrospectives in and outside of the equipment finance industry, and it's a very common anti-pattern that I've seen that leads to innovation challenge rather than success. So, the book, it really reflects lived practice shaped by real client work, not theory. My hope is that people will find something in it that can help them develop a capability to thrive through transformational innovation rather than just survive it.
I'm so excited for everybody, all of our listeners, to read it, because it's so powerful. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, getting me excited for my own book.
Good.
I've been so close to it. It's like,
that's fair.
There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about it.
I can imagine. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about assumption, but what is one assumption or myth about innovation or transformation that we really need to leave behind in 2025?
Oh my gosh. Okay. There actually are so many. I've been really lately. I'm working on actually compiling a list of myths that we just need to systematically bust over the next year. But there's a couple that I want to bring up. So a big one is that speed comes from pushing harder instead of aligning first. We're just going to add more people. We're just going to add more intensity. We're just going to, demand louder that we need to get something done by a certain date, whatever it is. Speed doesn't come from pushing people harder. It actually comes from stepping back, which feels like you're slowing down. Stepping back just long enough to get the minimum effective dose of alignment that you need so that you can move forward together. It seems so counterintuitive, but it makes all the difference. The other one that of mine is that innovation is all about tools rather than people and decisions. We have a very tools first mentality, especially in the equipment finance industry, and I'm sure that it's happening elsewhere as well. But the myth is that the software tool or the software license is going to solve your problems. That is rarely the case. There is a lot of really great software and technology out there, and every piece of software has its warts and its issues. It's never the tool itself that is going to bring the innovation and the return on investment. It's the decisions that you make, the actions that you take, and the way that you're working together with your people to do those things in a way that's going to add value. And then the last one that I would bring up is, and I think this is a big one, a lot of people are giving lip service to the notion of change management. But I think that the myth is that change management is a phase of your initiative and rather than a leadership capability. And so I think we need to get away from change management to change leadership. That's what it's really all about, because I think that change is just a part of our day-to-day now, and I think that with change coming at us from all different directions, some of the old-fashioned approaches to change management were built for a world where maybe there was one big change going on at a time. That's not the world that we live in right now. And so how do we lead people through a lot of change so that they're resilient and adaptable? And, it just takes a different mindset. And I think that those are things, even if we only tackle those three things in 2026, we're going to make awesome happen.
I love that idea of leading through change, not managing change, but leading through change.
And change isn't always a bad thing.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Those are the ones that were top of mind for me. But, Jennica, you've been around the TomorrowZone approach for a while now. You've seen us in action, and been a big part of what we do. So, you understand how we think, how it's different. I'm curious, how would you answer this question? What myths or assumptions about innovation would you leave behind for 2026?
One of my biggest one, it's similar to what you said, but I'm going to take it a little bit higher level. And that's the idea that innovation and transformation has to do mostly with technology. Technology is changing so quickly. AI, that's the conversation. You can't not have a conversation about AI. And so the default can be that this must be what innovation and transformation means. And that is such a dangerous assumption, because the reality is that innovation and transformation is by humans, for humans, with humans. That's it. It doesn't matter how good the technology gets. It's never going to have the experience that we have as humans. It's never going to understand the nuance. And it's certainly not going to have the code of ethics that we do as humans. And so, to me, that's the most important thing, that the faster technology gets, the smarter AI gets, we cannot just hand this area over, because those things are simply a tool for humans. It's meant to help us be more human. We talk about this all the time at TomorrowZone, that, technology actually is enabler. It's what does it mean? It's now more than ever, what does it mean to be a human, and how can we really capitalize on that? And so that to me is just vital. I don't know if it's my social work background. I don't know if it's working with you, but that is so important to me. So
I love that. I was taking notes while you were talking. By humans, for humans, with humans. Yes.
Yeah, that is truly what innovation and transformation is about. So Deb, you said 2025 was a slingshot year, and I love that, because that's a metaphor that we use a lot here at TomorrowZone. So what are we launching towards in 2026?
One of the things that we are working on is expanding the reach of our signature offer, which is the Catalyst Sprint, by packaging it for scale. And so that's something that we're working on. How can we get this into the hands of more teams and really scale the impact? Because we have seen it bring clarity, shared understanding, and shared language to really energize teams to be excited to take on change. And that's different from teams where change is imposed on them. You're actually going to have such a better experience when you get people moving in the same direction together, because they all understand the why, because they were a part of. We're also launching a book in 2026. I mean, when I was really thinking through that project, I knew it was going to be a big commitment to write the book. And it's probably a lot of business people have thought this, like, do I have a book in me? I should write a book. It's on my bucket list kind of thing. And it's kind of been on my list of things I wanted to do for a really long time. But, you get so caught up in the day-to-day. And I started, I've been capturing ideas for this book for years, actually. I have mad science notebooks everywhere, and I've been capturing ideas along the way. And in January, on a snow day, I started writing and kind of putting together ideas for a book, and didn't even know what I was going to call it. And, just kind of playing with it, dabbling, but not really committing to it. And I went to an executive retreat in June, and that's when I really, really realized I need to commit to this. And that week I hired a team to help me bring it to life. There are aspects of book publishing that I don't care to ever learn. I'd rather have someone do it for me, so that I can just focus on the content and the message. That was a big thing. And, when I think about 2026, the book is really the seed of all the things that we are going to be building for the future. And I really needed to get this done because I wanted to crystallize and help people understand what it is that we do and why it's different, and how your experience of innovation can be different if you apply some of the principles that I'm sharing from the TomorrowZone system to your work. And that, it doesn't take a lot to do that, but it does take thinking different. And so that's what I'm excited about for 2026. There's way more to come there, but, 2026 is really, I think, is going to be a year of clarity for the market to really understand who we are and what we do and why we do it the way that we do. And I think it's going to help us to launch into the other new things that we have on our roadmap that I'm not going to talk about right now.
I'm excited. It's going to be an amazing year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Deb, for leaders who are listening, who are feeling momentum, pressure, what would you say to them as they enter 2026?
I know that year end can be a tough time with holidays and all the things that swirl around in our heads, just in that, in our personal lives, in our business lives. We're closing out the year. We're doing the mad rush to get everything done that we needed to for the year. And January comes and presents to us a fresh start, kind of a clean slate. It's a great stopping point and starting point. And I would say, if you can make time, even an hour, to just kind of pull back just enough to really reflect on what you've learned from 2025, and then get aligned personally with your own values and vision. And you can even take time to get aligned with your team before accelerating into 2026. Bring people into the big picture early. This is something that we practice often at TomorrowZone. When I brought Jennica onto the team, actually, we started there. It was never a throw it over the wall type of relationship, and it wasn't transactional. It was come in and let's start, at the strategy table. Here's the big picture. How can we achieve this together? When you're bringing people into that big picture early, it generates momentum. Momentum follows clarity. Just making enough space to create a shared understanding of where you want to go together makes all the difference. And then treat your times of reflection and collaboration and learning together as strategic advantage. It's not a time suck. It's actually a really great investment, because all of those things roll forward into continuing to evolve your capability and your scalability as you move ahead into the next year.
That's so powerful. Thank you. I love when I was hearing you say, that alignment, that strategy, that taking that time, it's personal, but it's also collective. And there's so much power in that both and of both of them.
And as a leader, it starts with you.
Yeah.
Getting really honest with yourself. Where are you? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? And why?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thanks for letting me be a part of this conversation. It's been a fun 2025, and I'm super excited about 2026.
Looking forward to making awesome happen together.
Yes, absolutely. And if 2025 has taught us anything, it's that transformation does not come from more noise. It comes from clarity, it comes from curiosity, and from taking bold next steps. So here's your invitation. Like Deb said, take a moment to reflect. What catalyzed you in 2025? And what's the next edge that you're ready to explore? And if you're looking for a thought partner to help you scan what's emerging and spark what's next, we're here. So thank you for tuning in. And until next time, stay curious and choose to make awesome happen.